Probably just
Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. How's everybody doing this morning?
Happy
good.
Good
Saturday, almost the
morning.
New
quarter.
year.
Good morning.
Woohoo!
All right. That is much different than our preamble, and that is wonderful. You guys are absolutely excited. This is our last Saturday walk and talk, Voices of HealthPointe walk and talk for the year. And also, as I was noting in our preamble as well, for those of us that are in the north, many of us are here in Michigan. I did a quick check, and we are absolutely around the corner on wintertime and experiencing more daylight. In fact, we are experiencing approximately 1 hour or 1 minute and 30 seconds more daylight right now since December 21st. So we're excited and ready to get going. For those that are new to this program, we gather once a week, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those that choose to join live, just check with somebody that you know because it's on an invite only basis. For those that aren't here live, these episodes do get uploaded into the YouTube channel called Voices of HealthPointe. So you can just search YouTube for Voices of HealthPointe and see this episode as well as roughly 120 or so previous episodes. As we often do, we kind of tee things up with some docket items, and then we get into the real fun part of the kind of the round robin. And let me go ahead and do a mute all here. Bear with me, guys, and I am going to do a mute all. Okay, so that's a mute all, guys. So just so you know, if you go to speak, just make sure you unmute yourself. I just wanted to get rid of some background noise there. So docket items. I've got a docket item called cellular margin, why health breaks and heals in steps, not slopes. And then we're also going to kind of roundtable a docket item that Debbie Llewellyn brought up on you may have heard of the term Ozempic face for people that are taking GLP-1s and what can be done to kind of mitigate that. Does a branched chain amino acid like muscle multiplier in our product line mitigate that? And so we'll kind of roundtable that docket item and explore that a bit. But let me get into my segment. Before I do, I want to emphasize that the content shared here is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. Our discussions draw on wellness concepts similar to those found in the HealthPointe methodology, which we hold in high regard. The ideas presented are independently developed and do not represent or speak on behalf of the HealthPointe brand. Okay, with that said, again, cellular margin is the topic and why health breaks and heals in steps, not slopes. Most people assume health improves in a single straight line. Eat better and you should steadily feel better. Move more and outcomes should rise gradually over time. But real life does not work that way, and neither does biology. In practice, health often changes in steps. Long stretches of quiet stability are followed by sudden shifts. People feel fine until they don't. Others make consistent improvements for weeks or even months and then notice a clear jump in energy, recovery, clarity, or performance rather than a slow climb. To understand why this happens, we need to zoom out and look at how complex systems actually behave. In many systems, stress does not cause immediate failure. Instead, the system absorbs stress, adapts, and compensates. It reallocates resources and adjusts internally to preserve outward stability. This ability to absorb stress is not unlimited. It depends on something that is rarely discussed but always present: margin. Margin is the space between normal operations and breakdown. It is the buffer that allows a system to handle uncertainty, variability, and unexpected demand without crossing a critical point. When margin is wide, systems are resilient. When margin is thin, systems can look fine right up until they are not. This pattern shows up everywhere. For example, let's look in finances. Margin is the difference between stability and default. During the 2008 financial crisis, many households did not lose their homes because of massive shocks. They lost them because they were already operating close to the edge. A relatively small disruption, in this case in the form of an uptick in the interest rate on their mortgage, pushed them past a threshold and they couldn't make the payment. Engineers design with margin intentionally. An airport runway, for example, is never built to the exact length required for takeoff or landing. Weight, weather, speed, and friction all vary. Margin absorbs that uncertainty. Materials behave the same way. Think of a stick. A stick bends gradually. It appears stable until the moment it snaps. The failure is sudden, but the stress has been accumulating quietly all along. Living systems follow the same rules. The human body is exceptionally good at compensating. When conditions are not ideal, systems adapt. Energy is rerouted. Repair is postponed. Inflammation is tolerated. Sometimes, for long periods of time, everything can appear stable from the outside. Chronic nutritional stress, blood sugar instability, inflammation, poor sleep, dehydration, inactivity, toxic exposures, and psychological stress all increase internal workload. Over time, this reduces margin. Health is rarely lost because of one bad decision. It declines when systems operate too close to their limits for too long. What is often misunderstood is how that decline shows up. Health does not usually deteriorate in a smooth downward slope. It often looks stable until a boundary is crossed, and then the change appears sudden. That pattern is not anecdotal. It is fundamental biology, and this is where things get interesting. For a long time, biology assumed that cells respond to the stress the way most people imagine health works, gradually and proportionally. More stress would produce a little more dysfunction. Less stress would restore function in a smooth way. Recent mitochondrial research shows, however, that that assumption is wrong. Mitochondria are often described as energy-producing structures inside cells, but that description dramatically understates their role. Mitochondria are central regulators of stress response, inflammation, immune signaling, metabolic flexibility, and cellular repair. They are not passive engines. They are decision makers. In a peer-reviewed study published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, Dr. Martin Picard and his research team examined how cells respond as mitochondrial stress increases slowly over time. The expectation was a gradual decline in function. What they observed was something very different. Cells tolerated increasing stress for long periods with surprisingly stable function. Then, once a critical threshold was crossed, the cells abruptly changed how they operated. Gene expression shifted. Energy strategies reorganized. The cell entered a new functional state almost all at once. The response was, in other words, non-linear. This was not cellular failure. It was an adaptive survival response, but it looked nothing like a smooth dial being turned down. In simple terms, the cell did not adjust volume, it flipped a switch. This might explain why patterns many people already recognize. Why people can feel mostly fine for years and then experience sudden fatigue, metabolic issues, or significant health events. Why consistent habits can feel quietly cumulative and then suddenly obvious. Why improvements often appear first in recovery, sleep quality, energy, joint comfort, mood, or mental clarity before other outcomes change. These are not random or subjective signals. They are indicators that cellular systems are regaining efficiency and margin. Micronutrients matter here. Macronutrients supply energy, but micronutrients are the essential cofactors, enzymes, antioxidants, and signaling molecules that make cellular repair and adaptation possible. For example, omega-3 fatty acids support cell membrane integrity and anti-inflammatory signaling, yet more than 80% of Americans do not consume enough omega-3s to meet recommended levels. Vitamin D, which supports immune regulation, bone health, and gut microbiome interactions, is commonly deficient or insufficient across large segments of the population. B vitamins and magnesium are foundational for energy metabolism and nervous system function, and many people fall short of optimal intake. Antioxidant nutrients such as vitamin C, vitamin E, and zinc play key roles in managing oxidative stress and immune resistance. These micronutrients support the enzymes, cofactors, and signaling pathways mitochondria rely on to repair and adapt. Their absence reduces margin by weakening repair capacity and stress tolerance. That cellular work is real, measurable, and often felt before it is visible. HealthPointe does not chase single variables. It restores margin across systems. Whole food nutrition, micronutrient sufficiency, hydration, daily movement, improved sleep, stress reduction, social connection, and healthy relationships. None of these are extreme. All of them reduce metabolic and mitochondrial stress. Together, they move the system away from thresholds and back towards resilience. From a biological perspective, this is exactly how durable change happens. Not by forcing outcomes, but by restoring enough margin for the body to operate in a healthier state. Health does not usually fail gradually, and it does not usually recover gradually either. It changes in states, governed by thresholds and margin. Mitochondrial research gives us a cellular level explanation for a truth already visible in finance, engineering, and material science. Systems can look stable while approaching a boundary when margin is thin. When consistent habits rebuild margin, important work is happening even if it's not yet obvious. Capacity is being restored. Stress is being absorbed more efficiently. The system is regaining room to maneuver. And when enough margin has been rebuilt, the body does what it is designed to do. It adapts, it reorganizes, it stabilizes at a higher level of function. Health, in this sense, is not about perfection or control. It is about creating and protecting margin, the space where biology can thrive rather than merely cope. Okay, guys, that is my piece on the topic of cellular margin. I thought it was kind of relevant for a couple of things. One, we're coming out of the holidays, and we often have kind of a cute little phrase that we say, health is not about what you eat between Christmas and New Year's, but rather between what you eat between New Year's and Christmas, right? I think it was Ben Physick. Was the first time I heard that phrase, and that is so true. And so many of us are in the thick of that right now. And, this is relevant to point out that, our bodies, if we're in that healthy state, if we've been practicing HealthPointe, we have that margin. We have that capacity to absorb maybe, getting a little, close to the rails, so to speak, during the holidays here with our eating and so forth. And then the other thing, and Carol, you brought this up in the preamble, you're talking about on Monday night, how we're going to maybe focus on people commenting on NSVs, non-scale victories. And we hear about those non-scale victories quite a bit throughout our various Zooms, because it's not, if somebody's on a weight loss journey, it's not just about the weight that they're losing. Of course, that's great and that's very clear, but often it's nice to accompany that with non-scale victories that we hear people talking about. Maybe it's energy and mood, or maybe it's a measurement with a tape measure where the scale isn't reflecting something, but the tape measure is. Maybe their clothes are feeling different. So there's a lot of different non-scale victories. This one is a little bit tougher to kind of talk about at a scientific level, but I think everyone can feel confident about a non-scale victory of improving their margin at a cellular level when they're when they're doing the HealthPointe program. So I thought it was fun that you brought that up, Carol, about non-scale victories. That's really at its core what this little narrative piece that I put together here is about. So with that, I'll kind of dial down my.
Eric, that was a fantastic article.
Thank you.
As a person approaching, three-quarters of a century, I can say that when I was probably your age or younger, you're not feeling like you think you're invulnerable and that, what you're eating or drinking or whatever you're doing is not impacting your health long term. At my age now, I want to live to be 100 or so I can see my granddaughters. I appreciate the knowledge that you're sharing about how what you put into your body is impacting your body and adding to your longevity. And so your everything that you bring to these Saturdays are extremely valuable from my perspective, and I appreciate them. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Debbie, and likewise, we love hearing your insights, whether they be on Saturday mornings. I think we're going to maybe talk a little bit about one of the topics that you mentioned during the preamble. Looking forward to that. But thanks for your thoughts on that. I think so many of us, as I was putting this together, I think, it doesn't take a lot of, mental bandwidth to think of people that we know or maybe ourselves. We're like you're talking about, Debbie, where they seemed like they were kind of like going along pretty well, and all of a sudden just bam, they had this. It's not this gradual thing, it's more of a step function. It's going along, and then all of a sudden boom, it's this step function. And that's the negative connotation of this. The positive connotation can be, someone that was maybe in poor health, and they're kind of gradually, and all of a sudden you often see it almost like psychologically is where I see it, where psychologically there's this step function. Well, what's behind that psychological, that emotional, is the physiological changes. I mean, when you have more health, you have more energy and so forth, it often manifests in this different behavior. And you see that step function where it's like, wow, this is a different person here. And so whether it's a negative step function or a positive step function, it was really interesting to kind of dig into the science and understand at a cellular level, at the DNA actually of the mitochondria. That's where much of that is happening, and it in fact does it in step functions. It does it because it builds margin and tolerance. And so, but yeah, most of us can relate either personally to those changes, those step function changes, or have known someone that, they were kind of cruising along and all of a sudden, bam, they have a significant negative health outcome. And, now we have more clarity on how that was actually building. And we kind of know that a bit, maybe it was building, not always. I mean, they can get something that affected their health that, was kind of out of their control. But a lot of times there are things that are in their control, and it's been building for years. But again,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, under the radar. You think, but it's really happening. You don't know it. And then, like you said, you think you're caught by surprise, but it goes back to when Kathy Munoz is always talking about atomic habits. What are our habits, good or bad, that are taking a toll on our health?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point there. And that, particularly with Kathy, is that accumulation over time. I mean, when you string together so many days of walking,
Right.
10,000 steps or more, it is that accumulation. These positive inputs or negative inputs, one day of 10,000 steps doesn't do it. And, one day of eating some Cheetos and burgers and fries doesn't, negatively do it. But like you're saying, Debbie, that consistency, that healthy habits, which is fundamental. What are you doing? What are you doing, David? I see David making
Cheetos,
faces.
Cheetos with what that menu that you put together just sounded disgusting.
Yeah, it did. It doesn't it? Yeah, pick your junk food, whatever it is. That one does sound pretty disgusting. Um, but isn't that Cheetos the one that gets all the orange stuff over your hands? Is that Cheetos? Yeah. Okay. Um, if any Cheetos brand managers are catching this episode, relax, relax. We're not saying Cheetos are the evil incarnate. They're just they make your fingers kind of orange. But but yeah, it is that accumulation and that step function for sure. So, any other thoughts, commentary?
Hi, this is Laurel. I'll just chip in. My hands are kind of busy doing something, and so I could barely get my unmute on, so I'll just leave the camera off. But I would say that for me, that jump like that was very true because I kept saying to Carol for like the first 4 months, everybody talks about how much energy they have on HealthPoint, and I said, it's not happening with me. I don't know. I'm waiting for that day. Everybody says they're feeling great, and I was losing weight, but I wasn't feeling great. And then somewhere about I don't know, maybe about 2 months ago, I think it was all of a sudden I just realized I had all this energy. I could sit down in a chair even if I felt tired and not fall asleep. So it was just like all of a sudden I had this big burst of energy, and it seems to be maintaining itself right through the holidays. And the other day I went to get my hair done, and the day before we had been with the grandkids who are 5 and 7 all day. From first thing in the morning, we picked them up. We went to the museum. We went here. We went there. All day long, we had a pizza party. We had a movies. We did all kinds of stuff. And I was telling the hairdresser about it, and she goes, "You did all that yesterday?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "And you're 72, and how come you have all this energy?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I never thought about it." She goes, "Look at you. You're all energetic." I go, "I am." But apparently to her, I looked like I was a ball of fire. And I guess I sort of was. And I got to just thinking about that. And so I don't know when that happened, but it was a big jump. It was not a
Hmm.
gradual, oh, I think I'm feeling better today. No, it was like one day I went, holy cow, what happened to me? So anyway, that's just
Hmm.
interesting. So I found that article very interesting.
That's great, Laurel. And I'm sure Carol is thinking, and maybe you're thinking. Hope you can bring that to Monday night, where that sounds like just an amazing story on non-scale victories. You probably have a number of them
That,
with your.
Eric, that is precisely what I want people to. Sorry, you know me, I just can't stay out of it,
I,
can I?
I knew it would be resonating with you, and I wasn't sure if you could chat now or not. I know you're busy over there, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that is. Those are the non-scale things that people don't even think about. Just little things like that. I mean, we want to hear the big victories too. We want to hear the scalable victories and the inches and all of that. But it's those little things that people don't even realize. And sometimes somebody on the call could listen to Laurel and say, "Oh my gosh, she's so right. I did this or this or this during the holidays or whatever." And yeah, she is absolutely right. And they don't even attribute it because it is that gradual thing that you were talking about, gradual good or gradual bad. Sometimes gradual we don't notice as much. But yeah, if we can do this kind of thing on Monday night and just have kind of a free for all of people, of course, let me know in advance too, so I can be a little bit structured. But I just think those kinds of things are so good at the end of the year to recollect, look at the things that I did good for myself. So thanks, Laurel. And yeah, everybody, that's what we need. I'm
Yeah.
going off again.
Well, pop back on here whenever you care to. We love hearing from you. Um, so yeah, that's Laurel, fantastic non-scale victory, and you have had the scale victories as well with something around 70 pounds down. So that's the great thing here is that they're not mutually exclusive. You get the scale victories and you get the non-scale victories, and but sometimes they do kind of come on different time horizons. I think Laurel, you were mentioning, maybe it was you, uh if it was, maybe speak to this, you had a period of time where you were just talking about a period of time where you kind of didn't experience this energy transformation. All of a sudden, boom, you had this step function, and all of a sudden you're kind of this bundle of energy. But also, you had a scale situation where there was a period of time where the numbers weren't being reflected every time you stepped on the scale, but then kind of had that threshold step function breakthrough on that. Do I recall correctly on that?
Yeah, there was a time when I wasn't losing weight and I was at the same whatever it was for seemed like forever. And Carol said, "Well, have you measured yourself lately?" And I hadn't, because I wasn't focused on that. You're just thinking, and it was like, I don't know, I'd lost about like it had only been a period of it was about it was within one cycle anyway, for sure. And I lost like about 9 inches or something. I forget what it was. And most of it was around my waist and I thought, oh, I guess something is happening. Yeah. And so that was true too. But yeah, the whole energy thing, people talk about it all the time on HealthPointe. Like, oh, I feel great, or this, that, and there'd be times when I'd hear that and I go, I don't even want to hear that. What do you? Why don't I get that? But obviously, I had a lot of other things my body was dealing with, and it just takes time. So I do notice a difference I think, in my energy level if I don't drink enough water, which is a challenge always for me. And I think I'm starting to put two and two together, and it seems like that's a part of a consistent part of it. So anyway, that's just another thought in there about water.
That's a gem there, because so often we need to look at, are we doing the complete program? Because water is an easy one to slip. Another one is snacking enough. There's a couple of things in those kind of major HealthPointe tenants that we can be like, oh man, we're doing this 100%. If you're in the throes of 6-week cycles, it's like, I'm totally dialed in, I'm totally, checking all the boxes. And then maybe through, the help of a coach that looks at things, and maybe you think that you are, of course you think that you are, but there's this blind spot, and that's the value often of a coach in many situations. You get a baseball player that has a coach and they can't hit a fastball anymore, and the coach is watching them and like, did you notice that you're dropping your elbow before you engage in your swing, or whatever it is? And the player doesn't recognize that, player doesn't see that, but the coach, who is knows the sport, knows the techniques, knows what to look for, sees that and points it out, and then it's an easy fix. And so often in this in the HealthPointe program, a coach will pick that up. But that water one is an easy one to kind of not be getting. And can it affect your energy, Laurel? Absolutely, as it sounds like you experienced. What I'll point out on the snacking, this came up actually this week with a client of mine who's doing fantastic. He's basically hit his weight loss goal, almost 25 pounds down. His doctor was titrating his blood pressure medications as he was losing weight and getting healthier and healthier and healthier. And now they've just taken him off of blood pressure, so he's off his BP meds. He's almost 25 pounds down, and his visceral fat went from a 9. And if you're familiar with the scale on visceral fat for an in-body machine, there's just kind of a rough scale from 9, from low to high, and you want it to be below a 10. That's kind of that quote unquote healthy range. And so he was below a 10, he was at a 9, but very close to the edge there at a 9. And in 3 cycles, well, in his first cycle, he went from a 9 to a 7. In his second cycle, he went from a 7 to a 5. And then the third measurement we took, he maintained a 5. Well, obviously, you're getting incrementally tighter and tighter. So And for those that aren't familiar with visceral fat, that is a fat that's around your organs and is the type of fat that correlates with chronic disease, much different than other fat. But the point is that he was just kind of refining his final stage of his goal, or he's in that space right now, and just has a little bit more that he wants to lose. Now, part of that, as we know, is getting you have to kind of change strategies because he's lost 25 pounds. You're not carrying around 25 pounds, so you have to increase your activity and all these types of things we were deploying. And he was just kind of hanging out, kind of getting this last couple of pounds. And I was looking at his images that he sends over religiously every morning, showing like what he ate, what time he ate, just a simple notebook. He takes a picture of it, sends it over. And I thought, this has been going on for a while, but I, as a coach, have failed to recognize there was pretty much non-existent snacks. He didn't feel he needed them, but also what we discovered is, you think about that, if you're kind of like trying to get that last extra oomph, and cross the finish line, you kind of try to start forcing it. And how do you force it? You kind of starve yourself, right? Now, he wasn't starving himself. He was eating his adequate amounts at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But what we had to discuss, and he's a very bright individual, he understood this completely, is there are programs out there where you can lose weight by starving yourself, right? You just starve yourself and you lose weight, but your body adapts and starts to hang on to that fuel. HealthPointe is not that type of system. HealthPointe is feeding your body very frequently small protein snacks between meals every 60 to 120 minutes. That is changing your body into fat burning, not starvation. Okay, so all to say, on a little bit of a rabbit trail here for those that are either new to the program or maybe are not tuned into that detail or some of these details. Hydration, very, very important for all the systems, and also fueling your body. And I tell you what triggered it. I know a lot of people on here also catch the Monday and Thursday Zooms that are put on by Network 21, the 30-minute Zooms Monday and Thursday mornings. It was somebody in that was commenting about making sure that they did their frequency of snacks or frequency of the protein snacks. Now, these are small, right? They're generally like an ounce, small protein snacks, but making sure that they're getting that. And that's what kind of cued me in to look at this individual's daily report to see if he was doing that, and he wasn't. And anyhow, kind of a bit of a rabbit trail there. Anybody else? Thoughts? Thought
Eric?
you were saying something. Yes. Good morning.
Oh, I'm listening in, and I want to just touch on the question that was raised by Debbie in regards to muscle multiplier and people on fat stuff, fat burning stuff like Ozempic, right? Would that be beneficial? So I looked up some things, and I want to touch what about the muscle multiplier at the very end. First of all, the 9 essential amino acids, the benefits of them are muscle growth and repair, recovery to support faster recovery after exercise and reduce muscle soreness. But here's one: muscle preservation, help prevent breakdown, especially during dieting or intense training. Okay, so also support fat loss while preserving muscle. That's the metabolism. Now, the formula for muscle multiplier came from a doctor who formulated these 9 essential amino acids in certain ways that benefited children that were in a burn center at a hospital. I believe it was just John Hopkins University Hospital. And these children were just, they could not move, just had to lay there in bed, and they were losing muscle like crazy. And the doctor kept working with them. I can't remember his name, but he kept, I'm sorry, Dr. Wolf? Okay. Carol just filled me in. And he developed a formula for these children we started noticing they were gaining up to 37% back of their muscle loss, just laying in bed. And actually, the formula that he developed is the one that Amway picked up to put into their muscle multiplier formula. So here it is, tested and developed by a doctor on these burn center children who were just totally sitting there doing nothing, couldn't move, but they gained up to 37% back of muscle loss, which was awesome. I'm the numbers guy. I remember those numbers well. So, but I just want to share that with you. And because you can put those essential amino acids together in different ways, but he put them in a certain way that brought back muscle to these children. And this formula that Amway purchased, they developed their muscle multiplier right from that doctor. So I hope that helps. I remember those statistics, and I think it'd be beneficial for anybody to begin with. Okay, because those people are losing muscle along with their fat, and this has got to be hurt them down the road. I hope that helps.
And Eric,
Yeah.
this is Sharon. I just wanted to say, I know y'all get tired of hearing this, but don't forget also the Moro Orange that will help take away the visceral fat. And so that's very, very important. Those two things that Nutrilite has now, XS has now, are amazing, and they're both fairly new. I mean, like within the last 2 or 3 years, but they are amazing, amazing, amazing. And anybody who begins HealthPointe, as fast as they can add those two things in, they're just going to be blessed because I just know we have several people on the Moro Orange, and for if they're on there at least 6 months, I can't tell you, like 2 or 3 inches in the waist gone. You know, even if they're not on HealthPointe, it's amazing, amazing, amazing. And we got those stats, actually something from Amway that showed the stats on here's what has been proven if somebody takes it for 3 months and if they take it for 6 months. So we just have the most amazing products that make such a difference in our health and in our non-scale victories, and getting those margins right, finally getting some margins back. And maybe everything that Hank said, maybe that also would impact somebody. What was Debbie saying about the Ozempic face? I'd love to hear her say that again, because who knows if it would help. It'd certainly be worth a try.
Yeah. Boy, we sure don't tire of you bringing that up, Sharon, about that Moral Orange product. I remember when I first heard you do a presentation on that. I'm going to say, I don't know, in my mind, I'm thinking maybe it was a couple of months ago on one of the Monday nights. You were a guest speaker on that, and you covered that. And what I vividly remember, and one of the things that you really lingered on, and I've since, pulled this up. I think I've got it, available as a file to send to people. Is this was, do I remember correctly? I mean, this was a peer-reviewed, the gold standard of studies. This was a peer-reviewed, double-blind study, controlled results on the reduction in visceral fat with this product. This was not anecdotal or I think it will work or something like that.
Yes.
This was like the gold standard of studies. And
yes.
That product is amazing.
And as far as I know, we are the only one that has that, because if you remember, that Moro Orange is grown at the base of a volcano, And we actually met, Carol and I met the young lady, I'll say young lady because to me, everybody's young, but she was the one who actually went to France and investigated that and found out all that and began years of research on it. And you're right, a double blind study. And I mean, just boy, the facts are there. If you take that, get that in, I would say get that into your program and don't take it out. I mean, that. I we're I still use it all the time, and it tastes so good. It tastes so good. So anyway, I just like I say, I hate to keep bringing that up, but boy, it's a game changer. And so I just wanted to say that. So thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sharon. And thank you, Hank. Thank you, Hank, on reminding us and bringing that back to the forefront. I don't know if Steve is on here. We know Steve is a real expert on the branched chain amino acids and the muscle multiplier product. Steve, if you're on here, if you want to comment on that as well. But
I am.
yes. Hey,
Good morning.
Steve. Good morning. Yeah, any thoughts? So in the preamble, just to give you context, there was a question or kind of a discussion that Debbie Llewellyn had brought up about wondering about, we've all heard the phrase, most of us have heard the phrase Ozempic face. There's people that have this rapid weight loss. They're basically, it's a starvation diet in a nutshell is what GLP-1 works. And yes, they lose weight. And the question is, what percentage of that is fat loss in that weight calculation? What percentage is muscle loss in that weight reduction? And we know the answer to that. And but what shows up visibly and what Debbie was asking about is that saggy, they call it Ozempic face, where it's like, whoa, they really look different, after they've been taking that product. And she was curious if the muscle multiplier could have a positive effect on that. And I think Hank really nailed it with that, his commentary, but I wonder if you have any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely right. That muscle multiplier is going to make an impact. In fact, I've got one guy right now is on he's on Ozempic, but he realized. He reached out and he realized that I'm losing muscle mass, and he heard me talking about it, and that struck a note with him, and he reached out because he knew he was losing muscle mass, and he needed to do something. But yeah, because all the 9 essential amino acids are matching exactly what's in the body's blood plasma pool, and when you eat protein, as you know, Eric, when you eat protein, it's broken down into the amino acids, and then the body has to absorb it. Well, even if somebody is eating whey protein or drinking whey protein shakes, it still takes a while for that to be assimilated into the body. It has to be broken down, changed into amino acids, then absorbed and utilized. And the body does not utilize all protein that is eaten. It only handles so much, and when it hits its threshold, then it stores it as fat or breaks it down and uses it as some energy. But with the amino acids that we have in muscle multiplier, that stuff is absorbed within 30 minutes. If you take it like when you're supposed to, 20 minutes before or after eating. But then you're working with the building blocks of protein to build muscle. And I have muscle multiplier used as a snack because it's doing exactly what the protein snacks are doing, only faster. It's putting the amino acids into the body much sooner. And I think that's a good way to go. Like Sharon was just saying with the Moral Blood Orange, another fabulous thing we've got. Another fabulous thing we've got, of course, like we've talked about before, is rhodiola. For a whole variety of reasons. And the one you talked a couple of weeks ago about stress, and it's the muscle multiplier. Check that rhodiola. The rhodiola is a great thing for someone that is under serious stress. And I won't go into detail about that now. Maybe another time I can bring that up and talk about it. But what it does with the stress factor, and we've got fabulous products. But yeah, if somebody's on Ozempic and they're going to be coming off of it, they need a strategy and a plan, and working the muscle multiplier into that is a fabulous thing, even before they get off Ozempic or any of the other GLP-1s. So anyhow, that's my 2 cents. Back to you.
Yeah, no, I love it, Steve. Thanks for jumping in here. And yes, we would love you to unpack at some time that works for you, a docket item, kind of digging deep. You're so knowledgeable on all of these, but particularly we all know that you're so knowledgeable on the muscle multiplier product and the branched chain amino acids. You mentioned something there that I made a note of. I love it, because earlier we were talking about hydration, and you just said that doing a branched chain amino acid as a snack. So that's something where you're just mixing a little bit in some water and kind of getting your hydration and your protein in a sense. Now it's probably not as, the satiety factor isn't there, but you're probably not doing it on every snack throughout the day.
No.
Just
because the limit is 3 a day. If a person wants to build muscle, if they're in athletics, if they're training, some kind of way for building muscle, up to 3 a day is what is recommended. So yeah, I mean, it kills 2 birds with 1 stone right there. You're getting a snack and you're getting hydration.
Yeah.
So that's a good deal.
Well, for one, I'm going to start incorporating that. Due to just ongoing coverage on this topic, most notably from you, I think. I've really worked it into my daily regimen to have the muscle multiplier in the morning. Before I hit and do a workout. That's what I'll do, is just have the hydration. Get plenty of hydration with that muscle multiplier, and then I'm digging into some high level cardio and so forth. And so that's incorporated. But I'll tell you, maybe these muscle multiplier snacks are going to help me out here. Just kind of bragging on Emily a bit, who I'm sure is listening right now. But for context, a lot of you know that she's training for an ultra. And so she's on the treadmill right now, running for 3 hours is what she's going to be running this morning. But I recently took a look at her delta between her in-body scan in August and her in-body scan in November. And she gained, if you're familiar with those printouts, if you've done more than one scan, you see, okay, did you go up or down in weight? Did you go up or down in SMM, which is skeletal muscle mass? And did you go up or down in percentage of PBF, percentage of body fat? And it's rare that you see an uptick in SMM, particularly if you see a downtick in percentage of body fat. And with her, it was this rare V, where she actually gained a little over 3 pounds in skeletal muscle mass while decreasing little over 3 percentage points in percentage of body fat. So I know I'm bragging on Emily a little bit here, but here's the point. She works at it. Here's a couple of points here. We are not in our 20s. Okay. You guys probably guessed that. Okay. I'm 58. She's 57. She's also 5'0". So this is a small frame to stack on 3 pounds of muscle. So what I'm trying to convey here is lest anyone at any age of any gender is thinking, oh, my muscle building days are over. That's not the case. It is the case that if you don't do anything, the natural progression over, particularly over the age 40, is a steady decline, that sarcopenia, reducing muscle mass. But you can counteract that. And in fact, Emily inspired me. I'm on a tear here to put on 5 pounds of muscle mass myself in this particular segment of time. And I need all the help I can get, and that includes maybe an uptick in my muscle multiplier. And I'd never thought about using it as a snack. That's brilliant, Steve, and another way to get that incorporated in things. And then, for those that are, the question about, Ozempic phase or kind of that look, I mean, more broadly, we are increasingly since 2023 when GLP-1s first started hitting, and I just speak for myself, I was really stiff-armed against them, really negative. I still am in a sense, but I think all of us see where we can really partner with people that are on GLP, like Debbie, you were saying there, where we can come along them and work with them to establish healthy habits, fill in these nutritional gaps, certainly get their muscle multiplier and other products that can help them with their muscle development, because absent of that, they are very likely going to get, yes, lighter, but also significant reduction in muscle and at risk of slips and falls, and they've got other problems if they don't have enough strength and muscle.
Eric?
Yes, Tara.
I just, this is really, really good stuff. Some of it reminders and some of it just, new thoughts. And I go back to Kathy's book on habits, on atomic habits and habit stacking. And HealthPointe is a great program for habit stacking. And as I'm listening to some of this stuff, like Steve saying, using muscle multiplier as a snack, so let's say you go out and you get your 5,000 steps in the morning, because now you've got your habit going, and you've listened to your audio while you're doing your walk. There's a habit stacking. You come back and you do a muscle multiplier as a snack. And that's another automatic. You've got it kind of laid out there. And you can even, with your breakfast, you can do the moral orange. Again, you can tie these things in together so they become automatic, rather than just saying, I got to take my moral orange. Okay, when? I got to use this as a snack. Well, when? If you have them it's the same every day. I know one of the things that I do with the magnesium, because I take that before I go to bed. Well, it's a very easy time to forget. So I put that out right on the counter where I know I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna get a cup of tea, because I just like a cup of tea before I go to bed. And I'm going to drink my magnesium down right at that same time. Again, habit stacking. So these things make it easier for you to remember all these little nuances of things that can help us in our HealthPointe program, because there's a lot of new little small things that you're going to be interjecting in. And to try to remember all that stuff, if it's just like the back of your hand, then it's a done deal. So like the muscle multiplier, as soon as you get your steps in right away, that's going to be your snack. You're tying it in because you're thirsty anyway. You've been walking. So now you're going to hydrate and put that muscle multiplier right in with that. They just are things that you can build into your system, of operation that will really work for you. And it's all that habit stacking, tying things together so you don't have to remember so much stuff.
Great stuff. Great reminder. Yeah, coming from the book, I think Kathy calls it like the HealthPointe Bible, the way she kind of views it or names it. And that's Atomic Habits by James Clear. Yeah, I got a heart emoji coming from Kathy. So I must have hit it correctly there. Yes, it really is the Bible for HealthPointe. And Carol talking about the habit stacking and walking through when you can stack, taking the muscle multiplier, the moral orange for the visceral fat, the evening magnesium, all of that, just kind of stacking it so that you're not making these you're not dragging down your cognitive capability with always trying to figure out how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, what you're going to do. It's just stacked. So, great stuff.
That's a good point, Eric, because if you recall, at one point I was taking muscle multiplier, trying to fit it in. And like you said, it occupies your brain when you're trying to think, oh, well, did I eat or did I have a protein shake? And is it time? So I will, when I'm tidying up the kitchen from dinner and so on, I will mix my Begin probiotic stuff, my Begin product, with my muscle multiplier in water already, set it aside so that I have that ready, so that in the morning when I come out and I take my vitamins in the morning, my rhodiola first thing before anything, and then I drink it down with my Begin and my muscle multiplier. So I know I'm not going to be eating for a half an hour. And that has made a huge difference because now I'm consistently getting the muscle multiplier in, and I don't think about it, just like you guys are talking. And that helped me a lot to be consistent every single day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love that.
And yes, Eric, I just wanted to make a comment on the Moro Orange. Okay, I believe this correction is right. That in the south of France, that's where they get the thing for the stress probiotic. The Moro Orange comes at the base of a volcano in Italy. Anyway, I think I got that messed up. I didn't want this session to go without me correcting that. But also, when Carol mentioned that Jerry and I are such creatures of habit, I don't think we ever change. And like Hank and Carol, we have things at night, and we get that chamomile tea, the organic chamomile tea from Neutralite, and it's just amazing. And we don't use any kind of sweeteners, but we always take a little twist tube, a strawberry twist tube, and just put a little bit of sweetener in that chamomile tea. And with your magnesium, or if you take Sweet Dreams, boy, it's such a great night's sleep. So just wanted to say that.
Oh my gosh, that is a gem. So chamomile tea, and then you're putting just a little squirt of the twist tube.
Yes, we like with the chamomile tea. We like the strawberry, and we half in his, half in mine, in the morning with our tea. Not the chamomile, but the ginger tea. Which we've already had this morning. We put glucosamine, half in his, half in mine. And so, I mean, we have habit upon habit upon habit, but it's sure easy to remember. So anyway, don't forget those teas. When I have run out of those before, and I run down to buy something else, there's a taste difference. I'm telling you, there is a taste difference between what you can buy at a store and getting the organics tea. So it's amazing.
That's awesome. And with the ginger tea, you're mixing the glucosamine twist tube, and that's the raspberry one, right?
Yes, that's the raspberry. Yeah. So we're getting that extra in the morning. And then at night, we're getting, we take the magnesium also, occasionally Sweet Dreams, whatever it is that you need to be taking, so that, I mean, we can sleep 6 or 8 hours without ever waking up. And rest is so good. That's one of the margins you want, is to make sure you're getting rest. And Neutralite has ways to do it. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the correction on the south of France versus parts of Italy. Love that. And what I'm hearing, just, kind of sweeping throughout, our various discussions here, is just the amazing product support that we have. And of course, that should go without saying, but I just want to double click on that because, it's one thing to have a methodology, and we certainly have that, and we've had that with the HealthPointe program. Now it's been in existence for what, 3 decades or something, and then 20, 30 or plus countries. So it's very multicultural. We hop on some of these Zooms throughout the week, and you've got people from Norway on there and India, all these different time zones, and that everybody has these different cultural eating behaviors and stuff, and everything can work within HealthPointe. So we've got that structure, but so important is to be able to support these healthy habits, this health transformation, this health uptick with the products that are as a foundational, filling in nutritional gaps. We've had countless talks and episodes on modern farming practices, depleted soils. I've been on a program, I think it's on Voices of HealthPointe, I don't know, where I break out a refractometer, a little measuring device, and I take an apple, and get a segment of that organic apple, the best apple category that you can get at, in our case, Whole Foods in Michigan here. And that clearly shows that although that apple looks beautiful and it's even organic, it doesn't mean it's nutrient dense. And that refractometer will give the measurement on the nutrient density of that produce. And it was very anemic. It was very nutritionally lacking. And so we could go across the board and do that with carrots or a celery or a raspberry or an apple. And we see that time and time again. So filling in those nutritional gaps and providing at a cellular level these things that our body needs for these margins, as we're talking about this cellular health. And then additionally, some things that can have these add-on effects, like helping with providing the branched chain amino acids, as Hank and Steve are talking about, and supporting that strength and muscle. Moro orange, totally, kind of a category in and of itself. I think you're correct, Sharon. It's certainly, to my knowledge, and again, I've dug into that paper. I've gone and done the research on that. I know others have as well, and I'm not aware of any other product that has that type of citation in terms of reducing visceral fat. And then, things like teas, teas when you're going to bed. I mean, rest is so important, as you mentioned, Sharon, and a lot of people struggle with that, either getting to sleep or having a thorough night of sleep. And, having trusted brands. I mean, the Nutrilite brand is 90 some years in existence, and has all their own certified organic farms, control the entire process, from the soil and the seed all the way through the process of creating the product. And to know that you can get that tea, and it's not, when you said that it tasted different, my mind immediately goes to some of the recent publications out there. We heard about the protein powders. I think it was David Munoz that talked about recent study where they pulled 23 protein powders off the shelves, and 15 of them, 2/3 of them, had higher levels of lead than is allowed by the RDA or whatever monitoring organization. And so I wondered on the tea, some of these teas that are out there, you never know where they're coming from, what's actually in this tea. And to know that you've got a trusted chamomile tea, a trusted additive to it. If you're doing the twist tube with the strawberry or the ginger tea, you've got a trusted brand in Nutrilite. You've got a good sleep. You've got good glucosamine. These products are a very integral part of this HealthPointe system, and we just love it, don't we? And we can recommend them with confidence. Yeah, we sure do. I mean, it's the hallmark of this program. And just, if anybody, I don't know if you guys have ever, this is really a side note. I had never done an exchange or a return on a product until relatively recently, because I never had to, but I just wanted to experience it. Be careful when you do that. They give you your money back before you actually are like ready to do that. I'll just explain this. It's kind of humorous. You know, I'm sure on some products, if you, I don't know, let's say that you tried a chocolate protein powder and you've discovered you didn't like chocolate and you wanted to return it and try the vanilla. You can return that within, I think all the products are 180, 6 months, 180 days. But we've all experienced things where you try to return a product, right? You buy something at an electronics store, you buy something at a grocery store, just try to return it. You expect friction, you expect resistance, you expect at a minimum to have to kind of go through some process where you kind of like rub your belly and pat your head at the same time. You got these hoops that you got to jump through. Well, I went onto the website and I clicked on a product and I clicked, return or whatever. And I think it asked me like a question like, is this the product you want to return? I thought when I clicked yes, that it would give me like 3 or 4 more steps. Like, are you sure? Or why do you want to return this? Or, fill this thing out or something like that. Nope. So I just like innocently clicked like yes, and poof, it just popped up and it said, your credit card has been, repopulated with this amount of money. Keep the product. Now, this was not like a high-tech item. This was like a consumable. Maybe it was protein powder. I don't remember. So be careful when you do that. I felt very guilty after that. I really didn't want my money back. I was just trying to test the system of returns. And so amongst all the other attributes of this, the Neutralite brand and these products is that confidence that you can have with yourself and with others that just try it. We're talking about muscle multiplier and Ozempic phase. We're talking about, moral orange and visceral fat. Try it. If it, for whatever reason you didn't like it, boom. Take it from me. I've experienced it. Even when I didn't want to experience it, they will give you your money back faster than maybe you want them to. So a little bit of a rabbit trail there, but it was worth noting. Anything else, guys? We've run a little bit late here. Anything else? I know everybody's got their New Year's plans coming up. Everybody's got to get going, right? We'll wrap up. All right, guys. Wonderful last episode of the year. So great to have everybody on here. We are looking forward to Monday night. Those that will be on for Monday night with Hank and Carol as they come back from their travels. And of course, everyone have a wonderful Happy New Year, and we'll plan on seeing everybody next week, same time, same place. Till then, bye-bye.
Happy
Good,
birthday,
guys.
Carol.
Happy
Happy
New
birthday,
Year.
Carol.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
New Year.
Carol.
Happy New Year.
Adios.